I'm Dr. John, and this is your Maintenance Minute. Look, we're continuing our discussion on the 32 processes and practices that the storeroom ought to be following. You ought to have these as formal programs in your storeroom. If you don't, give me a call. Look, don't forget to subscribe. I don't know where that appears on the screen. It's either going to be down over here or it's going to be down over there. But if you like what you see, please subscribe. I love doing these little video programs for you. I get great feedback. Love to hear from you. Please remember to subscribe. Now, we're talking about cycle counting today, and just a little bit of information on that. Cycle counting and cycle counting criteria. Now, this is my interpretation of it. If you read other programs, if you watch other programs or read other books, you might get different interpretation, but here's what I recommend to my clients. I recommend, now remember, we broke down the ABC classification in that video titled ABC Classification. That's the stratification of our storeroom or SKUs in the storeroom. Essentially, which are the most important, which ones do we need to be looking out for, and so on. Items that are marked A items, we need to count those every month. B items, we need to count those every quarter, and C items need to be counted semi-annually. In fact, a world-class program, you've gone through your entire inventory twice per year. Of course, if you follow this, you've counted all A items 12 times in a year, you've counted all B items 4 times, and if you follow the semi-annual for the C items, you'll have counted those twice in a year. So let's say, for example, I'm going to lift my little board up here. Let's say, for example, you have 1,000 SKUs. And if you followed the ABC classification in the review that we talked about in an earlier video, you got about 15% of your items are A items. And that's about, if you got 1,000 SKUs, that's about 150 you got to count every month. If you have 35% are B items, which again was spelled out in the ABC classification, then of course you're counting 350 every quarter, and your C items would make up about 50% of your inventory, and that would be 500 every semi-annual, every 180 days essentially. Look, cycle counting doesn't make your inventory accuracy better, it just confirms what your inventory accuracy is. Cycle counting, I'm really determining what's on the shelf, I'm counting what's on the shelf, and does it match what's on my computer. Now, if you have a inventory on your computer of 0 and there's 0 on the shelf, that's 100% accurate, right? If you got 10 on the computer and you got 10 on your shelf, that's also 100%. Cycle counting doesn't make your inventory accuracy better. It just kind of confirms what it is. Now, I, along with other experts, recommend that you cycle count every single day. A little bit of A, again, 150 divided by a month, say 30, however many you're going to count a day. You count a little A, you count a little B, you count a little C. What cycle counting is going to tell you is where your problems are. What gets our cycle counts off? Most people say it's the maintenance guys and gals coming into the store and taking it apart and not writing it down. I'm certainly agreeing that that contributes to the problem, but that's not the real problem. Think of all the ways the storeroom can screw up the inventory accuracy. Not receiving things right, not issuing things in the right quantity, not kitting properly, not checking out the kits properly, just taking things off the shelf, cleaning them off, rotating them, putting them back on the shelf. We put them in different locations, putting them away in the wrong spot to begin with, or just errors in human transactions. We write down a 7 instead of a 1, a 3 instead of an 8, or whatever it happens to be. Cycle counting not only confirms my inventory accuracy, tells me what it is at that moment, but if we do it every single day, it points to what processes that I just explained, which processes cause me areas of concern. Hey, look, I'm not receiving things properly. I'm not putting things away properly. I'm not accounting for things properly when I issue them. That's the real value in cycle counting, not only confirming what our inventory accuracy is, but where our problems might lie if we're less than 100%. Very important. Now, the cycle counting criteria is where the store stock committee says, well, I think we ought to count about 15% A's and 35% B's and those kinds of things. The cycle counting criteria is another process that lays out how we do the cycle counting, and that's typically done by a group I call the store stock committee, which is an oversight group of victims of the storeroom. We'll talk more about the storeroom stock committee in a later episode, but this is a group that says, here's what we agree to do, here's how we agree to play this. I want to touch on one other thing real quickly. For organizations that only have one person in the storeroom and you're trying to do a blind cycle count and be unbiased, not having the wolf guard the sheep sort of thing, it's very permissible to have a maintenance technician with a work order to account for their time to come into the storeroom. You hand them a list of things that need to be cycle counted, and they just simply count things on the shelf and write those numbers down and give you that list and go about their business. It's very permissible. In fact, it's a very good idea if you only have one person in the storeroom to use that practice. There's a real way to do that, a real formal way to make that happen. Again, the technician has to have a work order to account for their time and for their reason to be in the storeroom. Look, cycle counting and the criteria for setting up cycle counting is very critical. It helps to identify not only what our inventory accuracy is, but also where our problems lie. Hope you picked up something from that. Don't forget to subscribe, whichever direction that is. I'm Dr. John. This has been your Maintenance Minute.